We've grown up in the church and have always been somewhat involved in outreach. But how can we get involved in missions overseas? My name is Marianne.
And I'm Lilyann. We wanted to find out. Join us on our journey to discover the culture, the lifestyle,
The need and the mission.
in two of Southeast Asia's least reached countries.
Welcome to MissionTREK. Hey, welcome back. Today we are going to see a lot of exciting things, as well as meet and talk to a mystery missionary.
If you remember from last time, we arrived in Thailand and spent our first couple of days getting over jet lag.
Which thankfully wasn't too bad for us this time because we went and hiked 5 miles in the freezing weather in China.
Yes.
So that kind of helped us adjust to the sleeping schedule a little better.
And then, Sabbath, after sundown, we went and got a fish massage.
Which was quite the experience.
definitely.
You had fun.
Yeah, I
It
did.
tickled so bad. We were all screaming.
Yes.
Well, you were screaming.
It was definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then we went back to our hotel and totally crashed because we were so exhausted.
So tired. And then Sunday morning, we had to get up really early because we got a tour of the floating market.
Which, for our viewers, what is a floating market?
Well, you'll just have to see.
The place we are going today is a floating market called Dam Nuon Sarawak. It's the most popular floating market for tourists. It was built in 1968 and became a tourist attraction in 1971. So Marianne just bought a set of little coin purses for people back home to take for them as souvenirs. So we got something at the
150.
dinner market.
That is surprise.
You don't want to hang that on the wall.
Not fried?
No. I like it.
What?
It's great just being around all the people and seeing like all the activity
And what they do every day. Like, they're here every day selling stuff, and
this is just life to them, living on the river in little shacks. And we saw people that were fishing in the water, and that's their food. So
they are loose, Lilyann.
oh my god, you're getting this again.
Snakes are cool, but she doesn't like them.
Oh, look at like the
Tuk tuk. How much? Very cheap for you. How much for you?
no. I can't point at stuff. Don't point.
Are you having fun?
Yeah, it's really interesting, really cool.
Pythons don't bite you.
So they just squeeze. Yeah. It's good to the difference. Like in America, you would never see something like this, and it's really good cultural experience to see how they actually live.
Water bottle, thank you.
No, I'm not a snake person. I'd rather just watch them. Okay, so we're about to get on a boat and go through the village this time instead of the market that we did last time. It's going to be a faster boat. It has a motor, so it's going to be awesome. The boat going through the village, and they just dropped us off here, so we're not really sure what we're doing right now. So as we were on the boat, I was just looking at like how life is so much different here. They just live in little shacks along the river, and all their trash and sewer just gets run into the water. Anyways, I was thinking, like, what if this is the only part of the world you'd ever seen? Like, this is the only life you've ever known. For all these people, that's their reality. So it's just, you have to reach them somehow, and you have to be willing to sacrifice a lot to come and live like they do.
This stuff here is like the traditional tools that they use for agriculture, fishing, transportation. So we have like different things like boats and fish traps and plows and scoops and just a bunch of really cool stuff that's really cool to see, like the different culture and what sort of, how their tools are different from ours.
They put a lot of us in this van. Last time on the way here, we only had 12, and I think we have like 16. So
That's good.
A little tight.
I like that one.
What did you think of this little floating market?
It was really, really awesome. I'm glad we got to go.
It was the most incredible experience. I got to hold a boa constrictor, a really, really big one, and a slow loris, and they were so awesome. Very, very glad that we were able to go. She didn't hold it. She was too chicken.
No, I touched the slow loris, and I looked at the boa constrictor. This evening we are going to a night market, so that should be cool because neither one of us have done that before either. We are in a taxi, which you probably can notice.
We've reached the market, but we have no way to contact the other half of our group. And they're not here yet, or they're not where we are. So we don't really know how to find them. So we just have to pray right now.
After a few more minutes of anxious waiting, the other half of the group did show up, and we were able to venture into the public market area. There were a lot of different things for sale. Of course, Marianne found the puppies. They also had a local food market, so we went there to sample some delicious delicacies. Some looked healthy and some didn't, and others looked really spicy. After that, we went out into the Chatuchak night market, where hundreds of vendors have their stalls set up, selling all kinds of stuff. It is very popular with the locals there, because you can find great deals. Shouldn't there be a booth where people can learn about Jesus also?
So we've been visiting all these markets and doing lots of touristy stuff that not many missionaries spend a lot of time doing touristy stuff because they are, more trying to reach people, obviously. But we think it's good to get to know the culture and get to know the lifestyle of the locals, and that way you can reach them more on a level that they recognize and understand better and can connect with. Also, when missionaries, they have their families come to visit them, then they do touristy stuff with them and take a vacation kind of, and then they have places to come and hang out and visit with the people also, and with their family.
We were tired as we headed back to our hotel in a tuk-tuk. Well, that was well worth getting up early for.
Yep, that was a lot of fun.
It was.
I got to hold a snake. You were a little hesitant.
Was very happy not to be part of that.
It was fun though. It was big and cuddly.
Hardly
not
cuddly.
Words what people would usually use to describe a snake, but
not words most people use to describe a snake.
True.
It was weird looking and weird feeling and huge and scary.
Well, obviously I enjoyed the snake, but what did you enjoy?
I enjoyed the boat ride. That was
fun too. That was.
The one with the motor was better than
Yeah.
the other one that was slower.
Yeah, we got to see you go through really fast. Got to see everything.
And going through the village, just seeing you could see their homes just right there, their porch just right above the water, and
Yeah, that's where they live.
that's their whole life. Yeah.
While going through the market, we also got to stop and hold a slow loris, which I'd never even seen one before.
Neither had I.
So that was really fun.
Yeah.
So what is this doing here?
Well, during our ride through the market, we got a picture taken of us, and then they put it on this plate, and when we were finished, they sold it to us.
It's a cool little souvenir reminder of our awesome time at the floating market.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about how this is real life for people, but it kind of just looks like a tourist trap. Where did it even come from?
Hundreds of years ago, the floating market was the only way that people had to buy things and get what they needed because they didn't have a road system. They just had canals, and that's how they traveled and got around.
Wow.
Yeah. And Bangkok itself is actually built on a swampy area near a river that goes through the city.
Oh, okay.
And it actually sinks some every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Bangkok is such a huge city, though.
It
There's
is.
13 million people that live there, right?
That's what I've heard, yeah.
My dad did some calculations, and there are about 1,200 Adventists that live in this city. And if every Adventist talked to one person a day, it would take 30 years for them to talk to everybody.
Wow. That's a long time.
It's really daunting. There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
There is. Earlier, we mentioned that we would be talking to a mystery missionary. We can't tell you her real name because she works in a closed country, and if the wrong people found out, she could get into a lot of trouble. We ended up meeting her by accident when we were in Bangkok. We actually weren't even planning on interviewing her. God just worked it out for her to be in Bangkok the same time we were there. And I think it's a good thing that we interviewed her.
It was. I was really inspired, and I know the viewers will be as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little long, but we think you'll really enjoy it.
We're here in the middle of Bangkok. We're on the roof of our guest house that we're staying in, and you can see a kind of pretty good view from here. You can hear all the noise because there's a construction site right next door to us, and it's going to be pretty loud, but we're going to try to make it work. So we're going to be interviewing Elizabeth. She's a missionary, and we're really excited to get to hear more about what she does.
So our first question to Elizabeth is, where do you work?
I work in Asia in a tribal area near a village. I came here because this is where I really felt God leading me, and I currently work as a nurse in a clinic, and I also help train students to become medical missionaries, and they learn about natural remedies so they can work in their home villages where medical treatment and doctors and hospitals are not available.
Why are you doing this?
I'm doing this because in high school, I really felt God impressing me to become a nurse. And I felt like he was telling me to become a nurse because he knew he wanted me to do medical mission work. So ever since high school and all through nursing school, I knew that I wanted to become a medical missionary. And so now I'm able to use what God has given me, what God has taught me in His service.
That's so
very
good that
inspiring.
you're in tune with God through high school and stuff, and knowing like what He felt like what your calling was.
So there was a lot of prayer, and it took me about a year to really listen to God's voice to come here. So I argued with God a little bit, and all of my reasons for staying in the United States, God gave me an answer. And so it's like all of my excuses for staying, God completely erased all of them.
What could, like, people that are watching and Marianne and I, what could we do to help with the project you're working with?
Definitely prayer, because anyone, anywhere, at any time can always pray, no matter the situation, no matter how far away you are, you can always pray, and that can make a huge difference. And also be prepared to go wherever God leads you. Learn as much as you can in as many different areas as you can. Learn as many different skills as you can. Learn electrical work. Learn how to make a charcoal poultice. Learn how to give a hot foot bath. Lots of simple things you can learn at home that you can use in the mission field overseas, and you can also use these things in the mission field in your home country.
That's great.
I think it's really neat how like even younger people like can still do stuff even if they're not overseas, and it's something definitely everyone should consider. Definitely prayer especially is very important.
In preparing them for something that they may be able to do when they're older.
Yes, absolutely. And that's very important, because sometimes we think we're young and there's nothing that we can do now. And sometimes people think they're too old and there's nothing they can do, but they can always pray. And even though someone may think they're too young to do something now, they still are in the process of being prepared for what God wants to use them for in the future. And sometimes God teaches us lessons, or we take a class, or we have an experience, and we don't know why this happened. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with anything else in the rest of our life, but God has a reason for it. And so then one day it hits, oh, God, you're so smart. This is why you had me learn that. This is why you had me in this situation. And then it makes sense, and then you understand God really does have a plan. And you can really claim the promises of Jeremiah 29:11, where God says, I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and an expected end. So even though we don't know what He wants to do with us in the future, we can still learn as much as we can now, so that wherever He calls us, we can do as much as we can wherever we go.
So what is life like for kids over there? Like, what are some of the differences between like our life and their life?
There are huge differences. For starters, the children do not have the same nurturing that most of the children in the U.S. have, because parents in the U.S. usually are very excited and happy to have children, and people overseas where I work, sometimes they're not as excited to have children because they think this is another person that I have to feed, another person that I have to take care of, and the children are almost seen as a burden or a curse instead of a blessing. And so sometimes the children, they don't get the love and the affection that they really need. And sometimes they disappear for a couple of days, and you'll ask the parents, where are your children? And they say, we don't know, he left a couple days ago, he'll come back in a day or two. And then also the parents don't always teach their children the differences between right and wrong. They just let them do whatever they want. And then if they make a mistake and they get hurt, the parents think, oh, that's your own fault because you made the mistake. But the parents never taught them how to make wise decisions and to avoid these mistakes.
That's
really sad.
So a lot of people think that when you go to the mission field, you're saving lives every day, and you're bandaging machete wounds, and you're delivering babies, and you're surviving storms. But a lot of what happens in the mission field is routine daily things. You're washing your laundry by hand, you're cooking your food over a fire. In the midst of all of these things, you're witnessing for God when you go and interact in the communities and when you are even just doing your laundry, because we're supposed to do everything that we do, we're supposed to do it to the glory of God. So there's simple things that seem mundane and routine, but we still have to do those things to the glory of God. And sometimes people also think that they have to be a doctor to go to the mission field, or they have to be a pastor to preach, but that's not true at all. And there are even things that you girls know that people in the villages may not know. So for example, you know you should wash your hands after using the restroom, and you should wash your hands before you prepare food, you should wash your hands before you eat, you should take a bath every day so you can be clean, you should brush your teeth so your teeth don't rot and fall out. But many people in the villages, they don't know this. So there's so much that you could teach even adults that are 2 or 3 times your age.
Wow.
So there's a lot that you already know that you could teach.
I guess you take for granted that everybody just knows that stuff.
It's true, it's really true. And that's one of the things that's so different about the culture, is that they don't even know how to wash their hands with soap and water. They may have never used soap in their life. And then they get lots of diseases, they get sick because they're not cleaning their hands, they're not washing their fruits before they eat them. And so if you can just teach people simple education of how to prepare food in a clean way, how to have a clean body, then you can actually save lives just by washing hands and teaching them to wash their hands.
Wow.
So you can make a big difference with what you already have and what you already know.
I think that's really inspiring, like for people who don't have lots of talents, maybe like very special people that aren't very special people, maybe. It's like, because like even the simple stuff can make such a big difference.
Yes, exactly. And there's a saying I really like, and it says, God does not call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So he can call us to do something and we think, God, what am I going to do? And then once we get there, we realize, oh, this is what you want me to do. And God can give you the training that you need.
It sounds like there's a lot of challenges and difficulties, maybe, but what really keeps you here?
What keeps me here is definitely I know that this is God's will for my life, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And even though I haven't been here very long, I've completely fallen in love with the culture and the people and the food and the work that I do. And the people have really become like my family, and the place has become like my home. So when I talk about going back to the States to visit, instead of saying I'm going back home, I say I'm going to the States, because I think of this as my home now. And it's not like I'm just here for a job. I'm here fully, completely dedicated to wherever God leads while I'm here.
I feel like that should always be, like, if you're going to be a missionary, you should always be sure that that's where God's leading you, and you should always, like, don't just do it for a job or something. You should always be, like, dedicated and want to actually make a difference.
Have that passion.
Yes, absolutely. Even if we're doing something we may not enjoy, we can still pray and ask God to help us enjoy that. So we may think, oh, I'm cleaning the bathroom, this is no fun, but it can be a blessing. And one good friend of mine, we both do not like washing our laundry by hands because it takes so much time and we feel like there's nothing we can do and we're just wasting all this time. But we both realized we can listen to sermons while we're doing our laundry. So now it's like, hey, I'm going to go do my laundry today. I'm really excited because now I have time to listen to the sermon I've really been wanting to listen to, or to call a family member and talk to, or a friend that we haven't been able to talk to in a long time. So now we actually look forward to our laundry time because we know it's a time that we're not going to be distracted by anything because our hands are in a bucket of soapy water. So we can just talk on the phone, or we can listen to a sermon or a Bible story or something. So even something we hated doing, God has now turned that into a blessing for us.
It's so amazing how God can change our point of views of something. A big question that I have, and I'm sure people at home that are watching, they're very interested to know, is Jesus worth it? Is being a missionary, is the struggles, of the hardships, is it all going to be worth it?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And for me, the answer is yes, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because I know that no matter what happens in this life, no matter what I do in this life, what really matters is eternity. So what am I doing now to prepare myself for eternity? And what am I doing now to help prepare others for eternity? If we know that we have served him completely, then he will take care of us and he will provide all of our needs.
You really inspired me. I really have enjoyed getting to know about what you do and what your life is like. And God bless.
Praise God. Thank you. God bless both of you.
Just watching that again re-inspires me.
Me too.
We had so much fun hanging out with her. Like, she's so energetic and passionate about what she does.
I think a lot of times people think that being a Christian means that you have to be sad and serious. But no, when you're really surrendered to Jesus and living in him, then it's joyful.
It is, and she's a great example of that. I really like how from a young age, she was surrendered to God about her future and open to his leading.
Yeah. And her surrender really inspires me too. And surrender isn't just like, okay, I'm gonna die now. It's more like, I'm okay if you want me to die.
Exactly.
And that allows God's plan to work. And he's much better at planning than we are.
He is. An example of that is how Elizabeth was so prepared to just be over there and living in a mud hut with the bare necessities. But then when she got there, God had provided a nice room for her that was way better than she had been preparing for.
Yeah. And that doesn't always happen. Like, sometimes you surrender for bad things and the bad things still happen. But it's just when we allow God to lead that we'll be happy.
And Elizabeth didn't have it easy. She had obstacles to overcome after she felt God leading her overseas. God helped her to step out of the typical American life that we live here and overcome people's expectations of you as you grow up. You know, go to college, get a job, get married, you know, all that stuff, and just stay here. And there's so much work to do outside of here.
Yeah, for sure. And we just wanted to remind you guys not to be held back by what other people think of you, and not to put others' expectations above what God's plans for you are.
Because his way is always better in the long run. Join us next week on Mission Trek as we travel to northern Thailand.
And until then, remember to pray for the unreached.